MVP interview series brought to you by Career Connect Washington and the Apple STEM Network. I'm your host, Carrie Horning, Career Connected Learning Specialist with the NCESD 171. So our goal remains the same every week when we share our partners with each other is we really want to make sure that we introduce our community to one another, all the different entities that are doing all this great work. These partners need to know who each other is, who they are, and what they're doing, and that just makes for a stronger community. So as I do each week, I'd like to remind you a win today looks like each of you leaving with a greater understanding of the work that's being done all around our communities and how you might even get involved a little bit to help. So grab your lunch, sit back, and get ready for an extra dose of professional nourishment. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Christine Armstrong. And I get to tell a little story of, it's going to make me crack up. When I first met Christine, she actually sat in on my interview for this job back in 2018. And I know legitimately how nervous I was, not only because I was sitting there in that nervousness, but after I somehow amazingly got the job, my boss had to tell me exactly who all was at that table because they couldn't remember. And Christine, luckily and gratefully, was one of them. But just a quick introduction. Christine taught for 12 years in the school district. She was a CTE director at the Moses Lake School District for 19 years. She's now been the director at CB Tech for the past 8 years. And that's a whole lot of service, which again is the theme through all of my interviewees for the NCW MVP. I'm not sure where she finds the free time, but when she does, she's exercising her creative side with some cooking and some entertaining, maybe a little gardening and floral design. But one thing that I really wanted to share as well was her motto for the school for CB Tech is on time, every day with a positive attitude. And I think Christine lives and breathes this motto, and she makes you want to do it too. I love it every day when I'm in there. So I love that. And I'm thinking, Christine, that's a great kickoff for this as well. We were on time. I think we've got a good attitude, and I think we're ready to do this. So how are you feeling? You ready to go?
I am ready to go.
All right. Well, welcome in. So let's get started. I found, even though I don't live in the Moses Lake, proper, I'm outside of the area quite a ways, that when I'm in town, oftentimes when I'm speaking with other business partners, they don't actually know exactly, who everyone is, which is why we're doing this. So tell us kind of at the beginner entry level, tell us about CB Tech, tell us about Columbia Basin Technical Skills Center.
So first of all, since you mentioned our motto, I want to start with that. When we first started looking into this, it was a 35-year process from starting working on it to actually getting in the building. And the superintendent at the time that pushed it the most was, oh my gosh, now I can't remember. She's the ESD superintendent, Michelle Price. Anyway,
yes,
she got a hold of Jean Sherritt, which anybody in education has been there very long knows Jean, and she hired him to work with me on this project. There was $10,000 set aside for us to do this, and what Jean had me do is he made a list of the 17 major businesses in Grant County, and he and I went to every one of those businesses and we asked them what they were looking for in students and what kind of skills they were looking for. And that's how we came out with our motto, on time, every day with a positive attitude, because you know what, they mentioned welding or TIG, MIG, whatever. And okay, we need somebody to do advertising. We need somebody that has coding skills. But the common denominator in everything was if you send us a student that's ready to work, then that's who we want. We have training money. We are having a difficult time finding people that want to work and stay to work that have a positive attitude that will get there on time, that will pass a drug test. So that's where the on time every day with a positive attitude, every one of the 17 businesses told us that. And so shared that with the staff, and that's how we started. So we got money to work with NAC Architecture and drew up the plans for this building. every 2 years, we sent it back to the legislature to try to get funding. And then finally, recessions are excellent for skills centers, because when recessions happen, then we get funding because we are part of the answer of getting people training and back to work. So in 2012, they passed what's called a Jobs Now Act, and any shovel-ready project that was a government project pretty much got funded, and we were one of those. So
Nice.
I remember getting the phone call saying, you guys are funded, and we didn't have, I mean, that was the day the act got passed, and I was running around the building telling those people who identified they were going to come with me to the skills center. It was a great day. So
Yeah.
we opened in 2014. We got our certificate of occupancy May 5th, Cinco de Mayo of 2014, and then opened
Nice.
for summer school that year and have been open ever since.
Great. So, okay, what are the students doing in there? What, tell us a little bit about the curriculum, soft skills, what else going on in there?
Okay, so one of the things, I had 29 years to think about. When you're an educator, you think, oh man, if I had a building of my own, I would do this or this or this. And you can't, because you're a teacher. And so you can only do what you can do in your classroom. But the climate of the building is number one important. The soft skills are number one important. Teachers are not allowed to give the rules on the first day of class. We do relationship building, we do team building, we do fun things in order to get to know who our students are. So first of all, we are a soft skills work ethic building. And then second of all come the skills, because we find that if we do the soft skills first, everything comes easier. There was a year we decided, oh, we don't need to do 3 days of relationship building. We paid for it the entire rest of the year. So it is very, very important that these students know this is a different place. And you know what, we have a lot of rules. You lock up your cell phones here, you wear a uniform, you don't stay. If you don't have your uniform, we'll sell you one. You'll have to pay for it later, but we'll give it to you today. No hats, no hoodies, closed-toed shoes, all those kinds of things, but we love them for that. Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit military in a way, because we break them down a little bit and then we build them back up in a work ethic kind of way. We have very few students that leave. If they do leave, it's usually within the first week. I'm not wearing a uniform. Well, then you can come back later when you decide to. But if you're not going to wear a uniform, you're not going to put your phone away, then you can't stay here, because this is what we do.
Now I know why I feel so comfortable when I come in there. That sounds a little bit like the house I grew up in. And listen, I will be the first to say my parents were tough, but it was the best thing. I mean, I knew what the rules were, and I knew what the expectations were. So I love that. Yeah. Okay.
Don't surprise them.
Yeah.
At all.
No, not at all. And once you know the expectations, I think it's easier to meet and then even exceed them. So
right.
Yeah, very good. How about the curriculum? What do you have? What are the different classes and courseworks in there?
Okay, so we have what's called criminal justice, and a lot of those students are either going into the police force, or about a third of them will be going into the military. We have a video game programming class, and really we call it a coding class, and students thought it was too hard, so they wouldn't sign up for it. But once we changed it to video game programming, they're all in. And so yes. Really, they learn the coding to do the video game, to create video games. Yes. Those students have gone to nationals 5 out of the 8 years. Dr. Pixley is the instructor, and she is phenomenal. And the kids, I was a sub in there on Monday morning, and they didn't ask for a break, because normally you have to make them break, and then you have to lock the door behind them because they won't leave. It's just like a student playing video games at home. They don't want to come out of where that place is. They've started a game, can't be interrupted. Next class is our culinary arts. It's advanced culinary arts. We do catering. We have an operating cafe. We have a big event tomorrow night. They'll have about 160 people here that they will be catering for. So we're looking forward to that. We have advanced construction. And right now they are out building a shed for an elderly couple on their property. During COVID, they built what's called an escape room because they
Mhm.
couldn't go off campus.
Yeah.
They will paint a couple of houses for elderly people. And as all the people have to do is, first of all, sign our waiver.
Yeah.
And second of all, pay for whatever supplies the students use and have them there the day ahead of time.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
so they do a lot of community service in there. The next one would be advanced manufacturing. So
Mhm.
that's a manufacturing and welding program. We have 18 welding booths in there. We do MIG, TIG, oxyacetylene, and arc welding in there. We also have done a lot of community projects that are out there. We have what's called a butterfly bench that's being dedicated this Friday at 4 o'clock for a student who passed away at one of our grade schools. Her favorite thing was butterflies and her favorite color is purple, and it is gorgeous. And so mom and grandma are going to be there and the students who worked on it. And it's going to be a great celebration.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Oh, it's beautiful. The next one is in the morning. Our engineering teacher teaches flight technology. And we just found a teacher this morning that's going to teach those students that is AMT, Aviation Mechanics Technology certified out on Fridays at Big Bend Community College because we do not have an aviation lab here. And so they are here Monday through Thursday. They will be going out there on Fridays and learning from him. We just ordered a flight simulator and
Yes.
it's a 2-seater and
Yeah.
it rolls and turns and does all kinds of
Yes.
things. So
I'm sure I'm going to have to come in on a work day to check that out to make sure I know how to
yes.
Promote that.
What you'll have to make sure it's safe for the students. So
yes, that's it. Exactly.
In the afternoon, it is an engineering class. And they have laser engravers. We have a lathe, downdraft tables, composites oven. We have 7 3D printers, just all kinds of things for those students to use. We have a certified nursing assistant program, and we are now a test site. So the students don't have to go to Spokane or the Tri-Cities or Seattle to test. And they're way more comfortable taking it right here in their own classroom by somebody else who comes in and does that.
Yeah.
The last few years, we've had 100% passage rate. The first 3 years, we were in the 60s. So it hasn't always been great, but they went out and found, what were the other schools doing that had the high passage rate? Because it's ran by, the guidelines are from Office of Superintendent and Public Instruction and the Department of Health. And if you stay in the 60% passage rate, they can close your program. So it's just not, hey, another high school program. You have to be where they want you to be. Those students pass 22 skills tests with 100% accuracy before they can go out and do 50 hours of clinicals, which they will do either at the hospital or one of the nursing facilities in Moses Lake, Othello, or Ephrata. The next program is a brand new program next year. It's medical assisting. We had heard from the hospitals and clinics that, it's not an RN that brings you back to the room anymore and takes your blood pressure and goes over your medication list. It's a medical assistant. And so they need more of them. So they're just getting the basics here. And then those students will have to finish up at Big Bend Community College or another college, but most of them will go to Big Bend to do their testing and take their program. Off campus, we have our advanced automotive. They are here on Wednesdays because on Wednesdays we have what is called a Work Wednesday, where we have speakers come. We also teach them something about the world of work, and we do competitions and team work activities, which the students like. We have a spirit cup, so whichever program wins, they get this cup filled with candy, and they will compete for candy. High school students, it's amazing. They will do almost anything for a piece of candy. So it's like cheap labor here. It is wonderful.
Absolutely. Well, we have an entire holiday that just passed dedicated to just that, and it's not just kiddos. So that's terrific.
Our students, we had candy for each one of them. They just had to say trick or treat on the way out, and they got their candy. They love it. The last couple programs that are off campus are 2 cosmetology schools, and we contract with them to send students there.
Nice. That is a lot, and I love it. And one thing I want to add, since this is recorded and we're going to share this out, I had the great fortune of being up at Western Washington University a couple weekends ago with a Quincy High School alumni who is now a professor there, and he's in plastics engineering. And we got a tour of the lab, and of course, I'm going gaga over it, just like I am when I'm at CB Tech. And I said, I think I'm a frustrated engineer because I want to be in this lab, but I don't speak math. And he said very clearly, listen, I'm not great at math either. When you're doing the actual work and we're teaching it to how it's applicable, it's really not that hard. And I thought, oh, I wish I would have heard that before. So I love that you're hands-on and in there with these students, and they're not afraid, of the word engineering,
No.
So awesome. Way to go, CB Tech. I love that. That's why you're here today too. So, okay, so we've got a lot to cover. So let's go ahead and move on. So there was a very generous grant that was awarded to CB Tech. And I want to really ask you, tell us, because we were just kind of conversing about what the grant actually was called and whatnot, but tell us that, but then really tell us, how are you going to put it to use?
Okay, so it's called the Governor's Emergency Relief Grant, and it was based on the number of students you had enrolled and were serving during COVID. We were only closed from that March 18th day until June, and the following fall, we opened up again. And so we served a lot of students, and actually we got more money from that than any skill center in the state of Washington, because we stayed open and kept serving kids. So, and that was up to my teachers because, union issues and all those kinds of things, but all but one of them was here every day teaching kids, and it was wonderful. So we got $857,000 to spend.
Wow.
And we have 8 core programs on campus. And then we bought a few things for our contracted schools, but each of them got a little over 100,000. So it wasn't to be spent on, I need this, this, and this. What is that one dream item that we should have as a skill center, because we are a step above what should be happening in high schools. And if skill centers are only doing what high schools are doing, then they should lose those programs, because that's not what skill centers are for. They're funded at a higher level, and so we need to be doing things that are out in industry. So some of the things we purchased in our video game programming, something called a Z Space, and it's virtual reality gaming. And so the students put these glasses on, and they have a computer, and they can pull out the parts, and they can design things, and they can actually hold them in their hands and manipulate them. Don't ask me how it's done, but it is awesome.
Yeah.
So
that's another system I'm going to have to come check for safety.
And yeah, exactly. It is not here yet, but I've used it because the people that were selling it to us brought it so that we could use it for a few weeks. In our criminal justice class, we got a simulation. It's a computerized, it has thousands of simulations that, if you want to put in burglary or a traffic stop or whatever it is, there are only 2 others of these in the state of Washington, and they are both at police academies. And one of them isn't the version that we have, it's a lesser version. So actually there's only one in the state that's as nice as ours. This will be opened up for our community or anybody across the state. We want to entice industry to come in here. That was one of our things from the very beginning. We want to have them in here using our stuff. And the only thing we ask in return is that you be a guest speaker, or you show our students something that they need to know. It's everybody who comes by wants to do that. We got it approved by our school board because it is a shooting simulator. And so we didn't want to have any, negative feedback from anybody in the community. So we got school board approval first. In the culinary area, we got a coffee roaster. So we will be roasting our own coffee and we'll have a CB Tech brand. We also got an ice cream maker that the students last week, they are making their own ice creams. And then the class will choose about 3 for the whole school to taste test. And then we will sell those in our cafe. He also got a flat top grill, which is something we needed that was never put into the original plan. In the construction, he got a shop bot, and it has a router on one end that he can, or lathe on one end, so he can do furniture, and the rest of it, it's computerized cutting for wood. And it's something I guess they're using out there, and it's a dream. All these things were over 100,000.
Wow.
In the manufacturing, it isn't here yet, but it's ordered. We have a welding robotic arm, and that's what some of the companies are using. I mentioned the flight simulator out of flight.
Medical, we're still going to cover medical.
Medical is, they got what's called an Armitage table. And actually there were 3 folks that donated their cadavers years ago. And there's, you can do, there's 2 males and a female in there, and you can punch on the endocrine system and it'll only show you that digestive system. And it's 3D and you can turn it and manipulate it. And it is amazing. It's going to change the way that they see things and learn things. The medical assisting, we just got stuff to start that program. And then at Auto Tech, we redid the whole lab. It was after Big Bend leveled their building, we didn't have a space to go, so they put us in a space, school district owned property, and it was not sufficient. It wasn't CB Tech. It has 3 colors on the wall and old shop boxes, and it was awful. So we spent about 175,000 redoing that, and now it looks CB Tech. Now everybody, 2 kids to a toolbox, and it's good to go.
Nice. I have so many questions about the Armitage table, but I think that's maybe for
come and see it.
Yeah, for an interview that we're not recording. So that is a lot of things, a lot of items, a lot of tech. And I think it's exactly what our community needs for, the growth that we're experiencing, healthcare, manufacturing, all of the above. So, so that's terrific. That's so exciting. Okay. So on that same, kind of theme, there's also some phase 2 funding that CB Tech has been the recipient of. Can you tell us real quick a little bit about that too?
Yes. Before I start on that, because this will be added phase 2, but next year we're going to add fire science safety. We have one classroom that's only used on Wednesdays by Otto. So we're going to put them actually in the lecture area. It's not a classroom, but it'll work. And those students will be able to get their red card, and that's the card they need to go fight forest fires. So we're working with the city of Moses Lake and getting donated the gear and all kinds of things, because buying that stuff new, I guess it's about $6,000 per student to outfit them. And so I think we have 20 sets of gear, and if we get another 5, I won't put more than 25 in there, but we'll be ready to go.
So you know what, before you even answer that question, I have to go back. You said it's like, Disney World there, and you're like the Walt Disney of CB Tech. Now I get it. I totally get it. That's awesome. Okay, tell us all about the phase 2 funding.
Okay, so in phase 2, it will double the square footage. In 23, so after June of next year, when the session is done, legislative session is done, you never count on anything until the session's over, but we should get 425,000 to complete our drawings, and our drawings are pretty complete. NAC architecture, the district has paid every 2 years to have everything updated to code and that sort of thing, so it shouldn't take very long. But then in 25, 27, the new estimated cost figure is 26.4 million. It started out at 19.5 when we first put it in the queue, but it's 26.4. So what will we be adding? We are going to have Flight will have its own lab here. So instead of sending students out to Big Bend, because you lose 17 minutes drive time each way, we will have our own flight lab here. We're going to have fire science safety will be moved into its own facility. It will have a tower in the back because they climb up and shoot water in it and do all these kinds of things. I've seen the videos. It's going to be fun to watch. We are moving auto tech to CB Tech.
Okay.
It's never as good to have an off-campus program. They're not part of the culture. They're not part of the daily things of what we do. And so to get the whole CB Tech experience, you need to be here. We will move criminal justice into its own facility, along with an area for them to do PT, because they do running, they do all kinds of calisthenics, and it's a full meal deal.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do something in robotics and drones, and we don't know exactly what that looks like. And then that opens up the other classrooms that we're moving out for different programs. So things we've talked about are vet science. We've talked about some sort of a farm to table, maybe with a greenhouse out back. We're not sure what that looks like. Ag automation, but we'll have 3 empty classrooms in here. So we'll fill those with things that just need classrooms or need a classroom space and outside space. So we're very excited.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I mean, really, with the work that we do together, the career connected learning, you can just see the pathways. I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, I totally get the Disney World analogy now, and I love it. So, okay, so you talked about culinary, hosting a big event. I happen to know what that is. I believe I'll be there Thursday night, and that's for your advisory board. So I think that's a really nice little transition to ask the question. So if the community, whether you're industry, whether you're a private citizen, how can they get involved with CB Tech?
You know what, you can always give me a call. We always want people who want to get involved in education, whether that's serving on an advisory board, and really that's 2 meetings a year until we get into the phase 2 funding. And then those people help pick out equipment. They have to be validated by industry when we order things. But if you want to be a guest speaker, or even if you want to just come in and talk to students, we do mock interviews with our students, the seniors, before they leave. We used to do them here on campus, but that was too fakey. We found that it wasn't a real life enough situation. So now what our advisory boards have asked is that the students call their business. They set up a time to go to an interview there, and they'll run them through a regular interview. Now, that you think, oh, well, why would they take time to do that? Well, several of the kids get hired from that because they're looking for the good employee as well. And a lot of these companies have money to help them pay for college. And again, if they're the right student, like some of those students get hired from those mock interviews. And so any way that you, some people have donations of stuff that they're not using anymore, welding rod or things, give me a call and we'll see what we can do.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so we're winding down. We've only got a couple minutes left, but it is okay if we go over. This is recorded, and this is our game, so we get to, call the shots. I love this question, and I always get, all happy when I ask it, because it's the answers are so good. So you've been in education for a long time, helping students, caring for students, all of those things, giving back to our community. Is there one specific story that you can share with us that has just stayed with you, that keeps you motivated every day?
So there are tons of student stories. But I'm gonna go to a different story, a background story for me. So my story is that my father's father was a terrible alcoholic, a very mean alcoholic. And I have always been told that if you have one person if these kids have one person as an adult that can believe in them, they can be successful. So my dad had a man by the name of Mr. Maitland. We went to a school. I went to the same school my dad went to. It's called Parker School. It's since burned down. When he was there, it had 3 grades in each classroom. When I was there, it had 1 grade in each class. But anyway, Mr. Maitland was the man that took my dad underneath his wing. My dad was an Eagle Scout because of Mr. Maitland. It was always a safe place to go. And my dad went and visited Mr. Maitland 40 years after dad had not had him in school. He'd called his wife, said, hey, can I come see you? And she said, well, he's blind now and he's living in this assisted living place. And so dad went in there and dad knocked on the door and opened the door and he said, Mr. Maitland. And Mr. Maitland said, is that you, Bob? So even though he couldn't see 40 years later, he knew who my dad was. And dad tells us, all of us kids know that story. So, everybody in education, all these kids, they need one person who believes in them and totally change. My parents were awesome. I mean, like people were jealous of us growing up and we just are finding about that now, like we all wanted to come to your house and live in the basement and but it totally changed who my dad could have become because of this one man. And this guy, he never had any kids. And so all of his students
he had hundreds of kids actually, right?
Hundreds of kids. And he did everything for my dad, like taught him everything. So anyway, it's really important for me that every one of these kids has the teacher and the teacher believes in them, just like their own.
Yeah, I love that. I've got goosebumps. That's a great story. And, it's something we carry through. We've got some of our Workforce Alliance group members on here. I see somebody from the Cooley Medical Center that we just did a big event with. And really throughout everything that we do together in the Career Connected Learning, you and CB Tech as well, we always say just one. If we can influence and make a difference for just one, student, that's all that matters. And it really is all that matters. And we've done events where we've only had 3 kids, even though we thought we would have 50. And we've got a couple of events in the next, literally like 3 or 4 days where we'll see thousands of students. And again, I think the story stays the same. If we can change something for one student, then it's a win. So.
And I always tell people, make sure you know your why. Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you do what you do? And these students know every one of these teachers' whys. Even if it's not their teacher, they get up and they share what their why is. They have to know what we believe in. So they know that we believe in them.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like everybody in the community should spend a day at CB Tech. So I'm going to highly recommend anybody watching this, if you've not gone in and received a tour, it's amazing. The students, pre-COVID will shake your hand. I'm not sure what the rules are now, but they'll tour you around. It's an amazing facility filled with amazing people. I'm so lucky. I have 29 school districts, in this footprint of the NCESD, and I feel like I can say that, everywhere. But CB Tech really is fun. So anyways, Christine, I want to thank you for being our MVP today. I know you're super busy, but our most valuable partner for sure. I'm glad to have you, up to bat. And everybody who joined us, thank you. Are there any questions? We're running a little bit over, but it's a lot of good stuff. So are there any questions from anybody in our audience? And if not, then we'll sign off. I see, so excited for your expansion, Christine. Thank you, Christine. So all kinds of good stuff. You know what? I'm going to end it with that. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for sharing all of the amazing information that's happening. And, to the community members who are watching this, if you get a chance, get out there and check out.
Please do. We'd love it.
Pretty special. All right, everybody have a great day and we'll see you next week on the MVP series.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Bye-bye.